Hi, this is Taxi Chronicles. I'm here today with a guy who's going to tell us about what's it like doing business in Iraq, in the oil business. So when did you first start going to Iraq?
So it must have been around about the first sort of time was around about 2015. So I've been sort of travelling to and from there for the past 5 years, but I've only just sort of full time started working out there for the past 2 years. So until you really go and work out there, you start to understand how how a different culture sort of works and how a different country works.
Okay. Was that the time, were you there after the British had left? The
Yes,
military?
so by the time sort of the company's gone in and all the sort of British Army had left, I think it was about 2010. So the last sort of the British have gone from there, and ever since then, really companies have started going into the business, into the country, sorry, and sort of starting to generate its own revenue really. So it's taken them quite a lot of number of years to sort of recuperate from the war back in 2003, but they have sort of invested a lot more, and companies are starting to invest a lot more now in the country, which is nice to see really.
Mm, okay. What's safety like? So that must be on everybody's mind.
Yeah, so security, so it can be a bit difficult in terms of security. So when we're out there, we travel around in armored vehicles.
Okay.
So we have to be obviously be careful for people's safety in terms of what's happened. It's had a bit of a tough past, Iraq, in terms of safety, but yeah, it's very secure. So the companies do look after you when you're out there, and safety's highest on people's mind really. But I think overall you feel secure when you go out there. So as much as the media builds stuff up, as you're seeing probably on the news, it's not as bad as it looks, as the media makes out, which really highlights the media does spin things a little bit too much compared to when you actually go out there, and it's not really that bad.
Mm. Is so it's a PMC company that looks after you then?
I can't say the company name.
I know, I'm not saying company name.
Yeah.
So PMC, just for those listeners, is private military contractors. It's the kind of
Yeah.
work I used to do, but on the ships. I used to be
Ah,
maritime
okay.
security.
Yeah, security. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
private company.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that kind of thing. So how are the Iraqi people themselves? Do you get to interact with them much?
So I've got a team out there, all Iraqis, so all national staff, which is actually really good. I've actually preferred to work out in Iraq than I have actually preferred to work in the UK. So
Why is that?
I don't know, the team of people, they have a much more family orientated culture compared to the British. So we tend to have a bit of a stiff upper lip, and unlike the Iraqis, they tend to be a lot more open and friendly, and a much more family orientated sort of culture. They really want to look after the friends and the family. So if you get to know them on a personal level, you find that as a culture, they're very, very friendly. So I've thoroughly enjoyed working out there, and I'd even go to say that I'm probably more friendly with some of the Iraqis than I am with some of the expats out there, which says something, which says millions. So it's yeah, I think there's obviously Iraq can get a bad press, but the, like any normal people, the culture's obviously different in terms of the British culture. You have to be aware of that. It's a Islamic country. However, they're just as friendly as any sort of just as friendly as the UK culture. So
Okay. What would you say you've learned from working out there in Iraq?
I think the biggest thing is relationships. So being able to respect a different culture's decision. and why they think that might be right in a certain way, and understand the differences between each company or people is really, really important. Get to know the people you're working with. So being able to understand what makes somebody tick in terms of doing business, understand what makes them their drivers, their levers to do business, rather than simply being disrespectful to a person. So I think key things, understanding how to build relationships, and understanding respect, having respect for people. So.
Okay. Sorry. Just give you some insight, because this guy's got in the car and he's minding his own business. I'm dropping into the airport, but he's happily done this podcast. So I have to pose my questions on the cuff, but not in a way that gives away too much information.
Yeah, I've really put the pressure on you now, haven't I?
No, but it's all skills.
You have to think of a joke now, aren't you?
It's all skills. It's all skills. Do you see that Iraq's a place that I should say, are the kind of companies that are coming to Iraq from all different places in the world, or are they just from like
Yeah,
the
from the
normal?
UK. No, so all the companies are from globally around the world, and there's even American companies there still. After all the difficulties, have been going on, but yeah, there's still, all companies want to invest. So on our site, there's over 70 nationalities working together.
Okay.
So
Like
compared
a
to,
UN.
yeah, it is literally. So you've got anywhere from any sort of Europeans, British, French, Italians, to the Americans, to people from Indonesia, people from China. So all over the globe. So it is a real hot pot of different people. So it's interesting to understand how other people work in terms of working within a company. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool that you get a chance to work with so many different people, because I know a lot of people around the world will never get that chance to work internationally like that. So I feel quite privileged in terms of doing something.
It shows then when the incentive is there, everybody can get along.
Yeah, exactly.
Really,
Yeah,
Judy.
it does show you. See, you've got all
Yeah.
this Brexit going on, and you can't negotiate with the EU, and this, that, and the other, and then you have, companies, and you have everybody under one roof, and it does show you that even with different cultures and things, by understanding how people work and working together, you can actually get things achieved, surprisingly. So you have to put your differences aside. I think people get too hung up over their own thought process and their own needs, rather than actually thinking what other people need too. So.
What's a typical day like for you at work?
I drink a lot of coffee because we're not allowed to drink alcohol out there. So last night was my last night out for a few weeks. So it's generally, because it's you work in a big organisation, quite operationally focused. You end up having lots of sort of meetings in terms of discussions of, I can't say where I work, but in terms of the operational structure, so you're working in terms of trying to deliver products for the country, and so there's lots of meetings, but also trying to delegate some work to the Iraqis, because there's a big, as always in some of these countries, there's a big nationalisation push. So expats are there to provide training, to provide coaching, from really the skills gap that they didn't have. So back, obviously, when they had the two wars, a lot of technology and different things weren't brought into the country. So being able to bring the sort of the technology and the skills that were missing prior to this is a massive part of the job, really. it's one of the reasons why we're there, not to just support them in terms of business, but to support them in terms of development, in terms of people development. So there's lots of sort of leadership building skills as well as technical skills being built within in the country.
What's personally, when you're there, what's your personal time like? Are you like in the gym?
Yeah, that's
Is
a good
it a
question.
big
Good
compound?
question. Yes, so it's you don't really get to go into Baghdad or Basra or wherever you're based because of the security situation. So if you do go off site, you have got sort of private security firms supporting you. But on a night time, most people just we play maybe five-a-side football with Iraqis, or we'll go to the gym. There's lots of sort of fitness, exercise track. They've got football and things like that, so you can watch. They've got Sky out there and all of that. So there is a real good community. Yeah, it's difficult being away from family and friends, but it does help if there is the sort of leisure time that you do get. But you are working quite long hours because you are there for a number of weeks. So to get the most efficiency out of you, you do work longer hours. But even on the night time, you do spend time, leisure time, sort of exercising. Mostly sports or sort of entertainment, movies and things.
When I was in Afghan.
Oh, so you've been to Afghan?
Yeah, I was in the military.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
I didn't realise.
No, yeah. So I went to Afghan twice.
Oh,
yeah.
so you've done two, okay.
Yeah, two tours,
Two tours.
2006, 2010.
Oh, so you'd be familiar with the sort of area of...
Yeah. Well, obviously it's not Iraq, but it's still Islamic.
Yeah.
And, they're quite placid, and they have their ways about them that if you don't offend them, they're very accommodating.
Yeah.
Very, very reasonable and understanding.
Yeah.
And stuff, which is understandable.
Yeah.
And stuff. What you're saying reminds me of when I was in Kandahar or Camp Bastion in Afghan. It was very like a compound, obviously military, but it's like big compound walls, and you had the football pitch, which was just kind of sand and rocks, and you had like a burger place, Subway.
Yeah.
You had a home. You had a cinema which the Yanks brought in, which wasn't really. It was just DVDs you select and put on the screen, and that was it really. You had a church, so I can relate to what you're talking about. In that respect of things.
It does. One thing is the weather. It does get very hot out there. So you're talking. It can hit 50, 55 degrees plus in summer. So it's ridiculously hot, and it's at that sort of temperature you need air conditioning. So I'm assuming that you guys did have air conditioning, but if you're doing sort of tours and walk around, you have to have some respect for some of the guys who do Ramadan through May, June time. It's 50 degrees. I just hats off to them for doing that, but definitely I couldn't do it.
I had the second tour. They gave us these molded ear deaths. You clean your ears. They wash your ears out, your eardrums out, and then they pour this wax into your ear, and it forms a mold of your ear. And then they make that into like an ear deaf. So basically, you can hear, but it will cut out the sharp sound. It cut out the sharp sounds. If there's any explosion and stuff. And why I'm telling you is this: when we was on patrol on the summer tour, I had the ear deafs on, and I had all the kit on, and I had this big piece of equipment called ECM, which weighs like, you could argue, a small child, maybe a teenager, weight of that. And it was hot. You had leather gloves on just in case, any sharp elements and things. And I started to feel really dizzy, really faint. And I had 2 camel packs of water. One with water and one with juice. So I used to sip the one with juice and then sip the one with water, just to try and keep the like electrolytes and balance of fluids in my body. But it just wasn't working, and I could feel myself. Now I weigh 115, about 16 stone on a good day. So with all that kit, you know, you're way into good double figures.
Yeah.
And somebody said, just take out the earplugs, the ear discs, and I took them out, and it was like a cartoon where the heat just went out of my head. So I can totally understand what you're saying when you're talking about
sort of the temperature. But what's interesting is that people don't realise the temperature drops in winter as well.
Yes.
So it gets down to like -1, -2. So apparently they had snow in Baghdad over the last couple of weeks. So you know, it's as much as it's warm, it can get cold in the winter. So it's rather hot or freezing. So hopefully, you know, the temperature's quite nice. It's heading back out in March now. It'll be nice 25, 26 degrees.
So you've been doing this job for like 10 years, going back and forth?
No, not 10, about 5 years. About 5
years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
do you see yourself carrying on in the industry?
Yeah, I see for a number of years. It's going to be whether continue going out there, travelling out there for a number of years. Probably not the best thing for your lifestyle, but I think maybe within the next couple of years I'll probably move back to the UK and start working out here, or wherever gets sent to next. But I think one thing, you know, is having the chance to work in a different country is if you get the chance, go and do it, because you learn so much about, you know, other people and how you behave, as well as how you should behave with different sort of cultures around the world. So highly recommend it if people do it.
With the oil industry and us going towards electricity and stuff, do you think it's going to be affected?
Yeah, one big thing now is there's obviously the low carbon agenda, so there's going to be big changes, and it'd be interesting to see how we move forward. It has to decrease, because we're at a certain point, you know, tipping point in the world where if we don't reduce our oil consumption or gas consumption, stop emitting CO2 emissions, we won't be able to be on this. Well, there'll be some serious consequences on the earth. So somewhere like Iraq, where it does produce lots of oil and gas, it needs a transition period to help it become more sustainable, such as using the likes of solar out there will be sort of advised, because it is very sunny all the time. So, you know, for a country like Iraq, definitely needs help within that transition from places like, you know, from countries and companies around the world. I'm just going to check I'm putting the right address here.
Well, thanks for that.
Yeah.